You are watching Living History. If you've just joined us, we've been through the history of the Peter Rice homestead, and we went over the town line to talk about the White Cliffs. Now we're back here in Marlborough to talk, well, we're going to talk some turkey. The national holiday of Thanksgiving has been observed through stories and different presidential proclamations dating all the way back to the times of the Pilgrims. I think we all know by now that Squanto and other Indians didn't sit down to eat turkey with the starving Pilgrims. They may have watched John Madden call the first game between the Lions and Bears, though. And boom! We're still working on the validity of that story.
Love to eat turkey, 'cause it's good. Love to eat turkey like a good boy should, 'cause it's turkey to eat. So good.
All right, this is getting out of hand. The point of the story is, did you know that among the shoes and apple orchards that Marlborough was once known for, that there was another well-known business in town?
Down in Mello Lane, memories of there. Look just like a painting that my uncle did. Frost-covered pumpkins and the smell of apple pie make me reminisce of a day living on the farm.
If you grew up in Marlborough, you might remember taking a school field trip to see the turkeys at Mello Lane Farm. Or maybe your family's Thanksgiving or Christmas turkey came from here. George Melo bought this property, at the time 128 acres worth, on Stowe Road in 1942, which was a dairy farm at the time with a side business of an apple orchard. In 1943, George's grandmother gave him 12 turkeys for the farm.
My great-grandmother bought us some turkeys from a place in Southborough called DeWatt's Turkey Farm. And that was the beginning. See, we're Portuguese and Italian. My great-grandma was obviously Portuguese, and she knew Mrs. DeWatt.
There are a lot of people that started small farms, and one of them were turkey farms. There are quite a few turkey farms in Massachusetts.
Dad got very interested in it because it was a burgeoning industry that was just starting, and it was during the war. And you know, meat during the war was very difficult to come by. So he saw some potential in starting a turkey farm. And all of a sudden, you know, this is the big thing that was going on.
Even though George Melo grew up on a farm and then bought this one, he was a musician by trade. The turkey business? That was a side dish. Although this trumpeter's heart was in both gigs.
He would do work here at the farm, and then I always remember him going and getting changed into his tuxedo to go into Boston. He played in a lot of the big hotels, and at that time it was in the 50s, so it was big bands. And but he didn't travel that much. He did mostly Boston.
While the turkey farm was there in the early years, along with the cows, horses, and a riding school, it wasn't until the 1950s that the turkey farm really became a prime portion of the family business. Those World War II years in the 40s were quite forming, though.
So a lot of people were eating turkey because they were being raised right here in Marlborough. So his business really took off during the war, where other businesses really wasn't, you know, because they had food rationing, you had C rations, you had cards that people had. They were spending all their money on for the war, and they had, of course, they had to feed the troops over there too, and stuff like that. So here you had a local turkey farm with all kinds of turkeys, so you could buy turkeys, and so turkeys were very popular during World War II, so around here anyways.
With the help of his wife, Louise, and daughter, Judy, George's turkey business was really taking off.
it was very limited in that it was Thanksgiving and Christmas, and that was the end of it, you know. And they started again in the spring, and it was it was like part-time almost, but they developed a very nice clientele. People, you know, started to understand that they could get a fresh turkey someplace, which is very interesting because now it's all fresh this and fresh that and natural this and natural that. And we were doing that for years, just years.
In the early 60s, George and Louise Mello were ready to retire from the business. David took over in 1966. That is when the business really started to boom with many different kinds of products. More barns were built on the property, and a country store was added.
That's when I started to open up the farm and make it a big difference as far as the kind of business it is became a full-time operation. So full-time with turkeys, so you've got to do something on the off-season, and it was raising pumpkins. We had pick your own strawberries. We had all kinds of things going on.
Soon, the items that have become legendary around these parts, making mouths water, were being made. The turkey pies, that special stuffing, dessert pies, donuts, jams, everything at Mello Lane Turkey Farm was made from scratch.
I remember going down there almost every year, get turkey, you know. A lot of times you had to wait in line. Sometimes there were even a policeman there. You know, I remember those days.
The products became very important. People would come here for pies, lots of pies. I don't remember how many David will tell you. Hundreds and hundreds of pies went out of here, and the turkey pies and the apple pies. But it was a fabulous business, very good.
Morrow family members started working there in the 1970s. Dan Morrow started developing a catering service that turned into the Buffet Way. When a business starts to fade, ownership decides it's time to call it a day. David decided it was time to call it a day, but not because business faded. It was still doing very well. Why did he close down?
Well, I was tired. You know, and I was pushing 70. I wanted out of here. That was it. So, and the unfortunate part of it is that there couldn't be any continuity to it because my children didn't want any part of it. They had other things that they were doing. Her kids had different lives, and it was not anything that I could pass on to somebody within the family. And I wasn't going to sell it to somebody that wasn't family. That wouldn't cut it. I couldn't do it.
The spirit, determination, and hard work of the Mello family is imprinted all over this land. But it's this structure that remains a landmark, a heartbeat of what this farm was.
That structure over there is an iconic structure. I have found, one year we went up into the attic of the farm, of the barn rather, and we saw Roman numerals cutting into one of the wind braces. And it was 1832, as we interpreted it. That's when this barn was built. That's a long time ago, you know, when you consider it. And it's still standing and it's still viable. It's wonderful. You got to take your hat off to the people that built things like that in those days. It's all pegs, all, you know, post and beam constructed in these. I mean, it withstood a couple of hurricanes. It never goes anyplace.
Judy took over the country store area of the barn to build her current calligraphy business.
I sort of developed that into, I call it a studio, where I have my calligraphy is displayed. I have a small business that I do calligraphy for weddings and other occasions.
The Mellos did a lot of business on this farm over parts of 6 decades. They also did a lot of living for a family that started out as city folks in Belmont, but really took on the role of country folk.
We moved to this big thing here, which is, you know, a lot of space. It was wonderful growing up on a farm. If I could make every kid grow up on a farm, this is the way I would do it.